Detroit Lions fans, welcome Detroit Den 313 with Will. We're gonna talk some Detroit Lions football, our favorite or second favorite episodes, the pregame episode, us versus those Cowboys or Cowgirls, depending on how you feel about that. But man, this is a big one. This is a big one. Thursday night football, prime time, all eyes on us. Gotta say it's a must win. It's a must win. But you got me today, my boy Steve, under the weather. Under the weather. For those of you, some of you may know, some of you may not, but typically this is how it rolls. So his daughter's been sick, so I may have passed it on to dad. Yeah, I talked to him the other day. He sounded like, so he's not sounding too good. But we're gonna try to get him together and maybe patch him up. Hopefully, we can get him in for the post game episode, and we'll talk a Detroit Lions win. But in the meantime, hold on. Just got to pick. Just got to pick in. Steve, Steve just fighting against it. Just fighting against it. Still got that Detroit Lions D on. And still on Twitter doing the Lord's work, man. So Steve, keep fighting for your life out there. Hopefully you get well soon. But let's get into the injury report, man. Let's get into the injury report. So big one. We've talked about it all week. Kirby Joseph, man. I think that's going to be huge for the Detroit Lions in this defense. I had mentioned some of the solutions that I thought might be a good look, maybe a little bit better situation than what we've had. We'll get into that in a second. But then you got Khalif Raymond, Brock Wright, Shane Zylstra, who we're trying to get back out there because we are absolutely just looking high and low for a tight end. And then we got some guys banged up, questionable. Coyote Awasika, Brian Branch, Taylor Decker, Graham Glasgow, Panay Sewell, St. Brown, and Mr. Vaki, Sayoni Vaki. So we got some big names out there. We already kind of knew about Kirby Joseph. I've said it. I've kind of beat it to death. It is what it is. I'm interested to see what we do. Will it still be Harper, who got a little bit banged up in the last game? Will I get to see Rocky Scene back there, and then maybe a little bit of DJ Reed and Amik on the outside. I don't know. I don't know. We play with those linebackers out there and let Brian Branch roam around. I'm interested to see what happens. Coach Shep has mentioned that he's going to try to do some different things to just create some pressure, create a pass rush, and try to put out a better performance than we had the last few weeks defensively. So we'll see. We'll see what he does. We'll get into that. But offensively, right off of the rip, looking at that injury report, St. Brown. We know who St. Brown is as Detroit Lions fans. If he's got a pulse, I think he'll go out there and try to give it a go. But to me, when you haven't been able to practice all week, whether you give it a go or you don't give it a go, he's not going to be himself. And that's going to be a detriment to the Detroit Lions. We're going to be playing with 10 and a half players if he's out there. We might be playing with 10 if he's not. That's how important that he is. Somebody's got to step up. Guys like JMO, obviously, Tesla. He's another one. Somebody's got to step up and carry that torch for the Detroit Lions while these guys are down. It's a big time deal with those injuries. So playing a little bit left-handed against the Dallas Cowboys team that's gotten hot as of late. They're really coming on strong. I think the Cowboys are sitting at, I believe, I had it right here, but 6-5-1 as I pull it up. Give me a second. But this is 6-5-1. They got a tie. Detroit Lions at 7-5. This is a big game because we got the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears that are ahead of us right now. It doesn't look like that. We need miracles to happen to win from that, right? So we're looking at being a wild card team, right? And from the wild card standpoint, we got to win these games if we're going to have a chance to sneak in as a wild card team because all of these records are very similar and there's no easy way to do this thing. I'm not going to say that we got to go undefeated, but we got to go undefeated-ish is what I'm saying for the rest of the season. I think Jahmyr Gibbs has been quoted as saying we need to treat every single football game from thus forward as a playoff game, and I agree with that. So really getting deep into this offense. This Dallas Cowboys defense, I feel like is underrated, especially after making some of the signings that they've made making some of the trades that they made throughout the season. Quentin Williams, huge addition. Kenny Clark, huge addition. And then picking up a young guy, young dog like Donovan Izoroku, who's coming on strong. We talked about him in the pre-draft, how much we liked Izoroku, man, and he's proven to be an asset for the Dallas Cowboys. So this defense, man, this defense is not nothing to bat an eye about. We've talked about how pass rush can cause us some issues. I think Izoroku is a guy who can get to the passer, and those interior linemen. I know Kenny Clark is more of a run stuffer, but Quentin Williams can pass rush. He's like a Lee McNeil in the sense of like he's not just a defensive tackle that has to stuff to run. No, he can create a pass rush up the middle as well. And we all know when you get guys in Jared Goff's face, what that does to us. So I won't get into that. I'm not going to beat up Jared before a game, but it's definitely something to look out for. And then they got the savvy old vet in Jadeveon Clowney too, who also he can get hot and do some things. This Cowboys defense. Typically, I'm coming in here and I'm talking crap, man. I'm tired. Detroit Lions are about to do this and that, and it's about to be, I'm not going to disrespect this Cowboys defense, man. They got some assets, and the Detroit Lions are a little bit banged up right now. So we got to be on top of our game. We got to be executing. This run game is going to be a must for us. Getting to the Detroit Lions, and what really matters is how we execute. I think David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs and this Detroit Lions beat up offensive line is going to have to find a way to execute. We're going to have to find a way to run the football. If we don't get that run game going, I think the pass game is obviously going to struggle. We're missing a lot of guys in that pass game, a lot of key guys. The two that immediately stand out in my mind is Sam Laporta, and if St. Brown is out there, we're going to be looking at probably at best a 75% St. Brown. So this run game is going to be key to open up the pass game. We can't just depend on our guys to beat their man one-on-one like we normally could be able to. So I don't know, something to keep an eye on. Another one is Coyote Awasika coming into this game a little bit banged up. If he can't go, who's going to stand in for him? Same thing with Graham Glasgow. I know we had Tristan Colon last game. Who will stand out? And especially if the two of those guys end up out, I don't foresee that. One of those guys will play. I'm not going to guarantee that, but I would foresee at least one of those guys playing. But if one's out, who's going to step in and step up in their place? So something to keep an eye on with the Detroit Lions is that offensive line to see what we can do up there. But I so graciously got Steve's predictions prior to the episode, even though he couldn't be on. Steve is predicting Jahmyr Gibbs as offensive player of the game. I think that kind of flows into what I just spoke to as far as us needing this run game to be successful against the Dallas Cowboys. Because if they can just pin their ears back and make us one-dimensional, I think Jared's going to be out for a tough day. But Steve, I respect it. I respect you. I respect you picking Jahmyr Gibbs, but
are you nuts?
He's not going to be player of the game. He's not going to be offensive player of the game. With guys like Quentin Williams and Kenny Clark in the middle of that thing, I think that it's going to be tough to run the football against the Cowboys this week, especially with a beat-up interior like we have. But I think this thing flows on Jared Goff, if you ask me. Jared Goff is going to have to be the player of this game. A game of 200 to 250 yards with 18 for 22 or 18 for 23 isn't going to be enough. I need Jared to go off if the Detroit Lions are going to be successful in this Thursday night football game. I'm looking at Jared to go 300 plus yards. I'm looking for 4 touchdown passes out of Jared Goff, and I'm looking for Jared Goff to really show us what he does when he has that chip on his shoulder. Show us what he does when his back's up against the wall and this thing's starting to unraveling and people are starting to not believe in him anymore. Normally, Jared shows up and he shows up in a big way. Player of the game for me, Jared Goff, throwing for 4 touchdown passes and 300-plus yards against these Dallas Cowboys who have Trayvon Diggs won't be out there. So, Jared, step up, man. Make me right, man. Make me right. But moving on to this defense. Coach Shep has stepped to that podium after a tough Thanksgiving Day loss and said some things are going to change. He's going to make some scheme changes. He's going to do some things to try to create a pass rush. We weren't able to get to Dude Love for a sack. We got to be better. That's the best I can say. We beat this thing up, talking about, hey, we should have did this, we should have did that. Hey, that didn't happen. Bottom line is we got to find a way to get it done. And I'm interested to see how Coach Shep attacks this thing. I want to see who's on the back end because, listen, George Pickens out there, CeeDee Lamb out there, Jake Ferguson out there. We got to figure out this back end situation. Jameis Winston came out here and looked like an absolute all pro superstar when he came, throwing to guys like Wendell Robinson. We saw with the Green Bay Packers, they had some success on the back ends too. Wicks was playing out of his mind. He looked like an all pro. We got to figure out how to stop the passing game, especially deep plays over 20 yards and big plays, whether it's on third, fourth down, whatever. We can't allow the vertical pass game to kill us. So I don't know. Harper has put a band-aid on it, but I would love to see somebody else get a shot because it just hasn't been enough for me. I had mentioned guys like Darius Slay. I know some of you hammered me for even talking about Darius Slay. I was a little bit confused by that because Darius Slay to me was a guy who could have came in and been a depth piece. I didn't think that Darius Slay was going to come in and solve all of our problems, but when you think about it, we got Rock Yassin, we got Amik Robertson, and then we also got DJ Reed. I was looking at Darius Slay as just something to bolster and add to the secondary depth and maybe play on the back end or allow somebody else to drop back on that back end and maybe he can play the nickel position. Us having so much depth in the secondary position with those other three guys who are definitely starting caliber guys, I thought to myself, now we can move these guys around and we can get a better caliber of athlete throughout the whole thing with TA being out. And prayers up for TA. Hopefully you have a speedy recovery and we can get you back throughout this playoff run or next season. But that said, that was my thought process behind the Darius Slay thing. Like it or hate it, I think that it makes sense because when if we wouldn't have done that, you're looking at the Trey Flowers of the world. You're looking at Dorsey. You're looking at, I know a lot of people love Whiteside, but you guys got to remember, Whiteside was just a small sample size. The dude only played a half of football, and it wasn't even a full half of football. We only got a little itty bitty sample size of what he can do, and he played a lot of zone. It's not like he was locking up playing man to man on guys. So I get the excitement behind him having some good moments in that football game. But if you go back and watch the film, and if you watch the full body of what he's offered since he's been through camp and the whole shebang, he just hasn't shown me anything to show me that he's better than even a veteran Darius Slay. So that was my thought process. Take it for what it's worth. Another waiver guy that we talked about in the previous episode was Laken Tomlinson. This one kind of confused me because nobody claimed him off waivers. I'm surprised that the Detroit Lions did not put in a waiver claim for him. They would have, since nobody else did it, they would have had an opportunity to bring him in. I think that we desperately need help in the interior offensive line. I don't think that that's something that should even be questioned. We could have picked him up and immediately added a starting caliber player. Guys, I know a couple of people have said that he's washed. Listen, maybe he is washed. Maybe he isn't competing as one of the best in the league, but he did enough to be able to start this season as a starter. And when we're talking about using reserve guys, and then even those reserve guys being banged up, Keoti Awasika is on the injury report. We already lost Christian Mahogany. Graham Glasgow's a little bit banged up. Hey, it could have been a situation where we brought him in as a depth piece because next thing you know, we're going to our third stringer in the interior line position. So just a thought. I'm a little bit confused at why Brad didn't pull the trigger on that one. Maybe that they know something that we don't know, but I don't know. Yet remains to be seen. But this defense, the linebackers have been playing absolutely out of their mind for the most part. I know Derek Barnes has had a couple of hiccups, but I think he's been playing some good football. I would like to see him doing more rushing off of the edge. That's something that I like from him out of that strong linebacker position, that Sam linebacker position. Jack Campbell's been looking like a freaking all-pro. And then Alex Anzalone is just a baller, man. So I'm not worried about the linebackers. This front, I need more. I need more out of this front. They've given up a little bit of rushing yards as of late. I still believe that they own the line of scrimmage, though. I just need them to close up those zone run schemes when the linemen are kind of letting us go where we want to go, and then they're allowing those backs to cut back and make plays. Josh Jacobs had some success against us, but the secondary is where it's at. The secondary is where it's at. Outside of the pass rush situation that I won't beat up too much, the secondary is going to have to hold up if this pass rush isn't going to be able to consistently create pressure. The secondary is going to have to hold on for dear life, and we're going to have to do some scheming and confusing of Dak Prescott, who also can hurt us with his legs. So he's not a one-dimensional quarterback. Not the best, but not the worst. Nothing but respect for Dak Prescott as well. For me, I gotta go with the easy pick in this game. Uh, haven't talked about him, but the Cowboys love to hand this thing off and get this thing going with Javonte Williams. I think we got to shut that down. I need Jack Campbell having 15 tackles this game, playing absolutely out of his mind, and I need a big play out of him. I need a big play out of him. I need one of those passes in this game. He sneaks underneath and steals it from Jake Ferguson, and I'm not gonna call Steve's. I'm not going to call Steve's pick six, but I would love to see him make that type of play because I believe he's capable. He's long. This is the guy that we're talking about, 6'5", and he's really starting to play the game with his instincts, and it's really starting to show. So, Jack, I need a big play out of you. Interception or punch out. I'm calling interception, still, and jumping underneath or something from Jake Ferguson, and big play out of Jack Campbell today. Steve dropped Hutch. Hutch is going to be his defensive player of the game. He said that he didn't drop what his stat line would be, but hey, I really don't care who it is. I'm just been loving the way that Jack Campbell has been playing this season, and I would love to see him finally get a little bit of extra. I guess publicity, for lack of a better word, because I feel like Jack just does the dirty work quietly, and he doesn't get much fame, much spotlight on him. So, Jack Campbell, man, defensive player of the game for Will. Score predictions, guys. Score predictions. I'll let Steve's score prediction go first. He picked 45-42 Lions. Steve predicting a high scoring game, lots of action. I'm okay with that if we come out on top, but I want to see something a little bit different. I'm hoping that we can shock the world today because I feel like our back is up against it, and I feel like the Detroit Lions are the type of team who could do that. A lot of people are predicting that the Cowboys come in and punch us in the mouth on Twitter. I've been seeing that the Detroit Lions are done. I just don't believe that. I feel like this is going to be a tough, gritty football game. I've already said that I want Jared Goff to throw for 4 touchdowns, so that's 28 right there. I'm going to throw a field goal on top of that and make it 31. 31, uh, 31, 24, Detroit Lions. Uh, I think this game is going to be close in the first half. Hopefully, we can pull away with it in the second half and ultimately just find a way to win. When you look at everything that's going on with the Detroit Lions, it cannot be denied. This thing is not pretty. We have a lot of people injured. All right. We have some coaching situations that are causing us a little bit of issues. When we're talking about the OC, had to take the play calling away from our OC. Coach Campbell had to step in and start doing it. As he mentioned when he had to do it, that takes him away from some of the other things that he needs to do as a head coach because he's got to prepare to call the plays. And it takes him away from some of the things that he even needs to do in game because he's thinking about the next drive and the next play and what needs to be done. Uh, Growing pains for the Detroit Lions this season, but ultimately, this is a group with a bunch of captains. This is a group with a bunch of guys that got the mindset of never give up, never give in. I think today we find a way to win. So, leave your score predictions in the comments. Please let me know how you're feeling. You guys already know the challenge that we do every week. That's still on, so make sure you drop that in the comments. But it has to be before kickoff, and it cannot be edited. Do not forget, it cannot be edited. Hopefully, me and Steve will be back with a post-game show, but if not, I'll be here trying to hold it down. Steve, you know I love you. Get better, man, and go Lions. Let's find a way to get this victory.